And welcome into another edition of Broadcaster Hour. I'm Roger Hoover, joining you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. From Gainesville, Florida, we've got Kyle Crooks. And in the center of the screen from, New York, John Sciambi. John Boog Sciambi from ESPN joins us. And John, how's everything going with you today?
Good. How you guys doing? What's happening?
We've been going good. Finally we get some college sports for us that are coming back. But for you, finishing up a baseball season. I know you got KBO early in the morning, too. What was baseball season like for you, calling games off of a monitor? Certainly different this year, right?
Yeah, it was weird. It was hard. It was not as much fun, that's for sure. And, especially when you get to the postseason and you're doing the biggest games, whether it's TV or radio, and you're calling them from, remote location after having done it, on site for so long. It was just it was an odd experience, and it just kind of underlines, all the things that you miss about the job.
Did you have any specific moments that were really frustrating, like maybe judging fly balls or just certain elements of the game that were really hard to try and call off a monitor?
Yeah, I think for, you're never going to be 100 out of 100 on fly balls, but I would say even in the ballpark, even that you're going to mess up from time to time. I would say a couple of things. One, a rocket that was hit hard and low to third, the camera's not quick enough to let you know whether the guy caught it on a bounce or not. So when you're calling it, especially on the radio, you're just saying line to third, and then the third baseman throwing it to first, and now you're realizing, okay, so it bounced. I think that, there are some other subtleties. I think the hardest play was anything hit into a gap with multiple base runners on base, because that play where if you're at the park, your eyes are, to the gap, to the runners, to the gap, to the runners, trying to locate that information on multiple screens was just super challenging. And then a play I had happen probably 3 or 4 times where there'd be a close play at the bag on a tag play, and the umpire would be in the shot. And nobody thinks about that. But no one's shooting it incorrectly. Like, people at home don't even realize that the camera, the job to execute there is to execute the picture of the play. And I tell you that the umpire is standing over him, putting his arms out, and I say, safe. And the people at home don't even process that I'm the one that's letting them know, because I can see the umpire and they can't. But then, there were times where, at a game late in the year in San Diego where the Dodgers are playing the Padres, and Betts is at third, Justin Turner, it's a chopper to Machado, Mookie's going on contact. They run him back to third and play at third, and where's the umpire? I can't see the umpire. What happened? You know what I mean? Like, because it just and that's annoying. That's annoying. It just, it is what it is. But I just think that, so that's the technical stuff, and then not being at the ballpark. You're just slowly but surely you're not delivering on the level of broadcast that you want. The example I gave, it'll seem trivial, but if you, the way I like to do the job, if you add them all up, the first night of the season was a big game, and it drew a lot of eyeballs. It was really the first sporting event back. It was the Yankees at the Nationals, and it was Scherzer against Cole. And Scherzer had started Game 7 of the World Series, and it was in Houston, which is a DH park. And Scherzer took batting practice before Game 7 of the World Series because he likes what it does for his body, et cetera. So he was asked during summer camp, after it was announced that the National League would go DH, so would you think about taking BP this year, even though the National League isn't going to let the pitchers hit? And he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. So I'm in Bristol, and I am texting every player, coach, media person, hey, did Scherzer hit? Does anybody know if Max Scherzer took batting practice today? And nobody knew. And it is the type of thing that if I was now, nobody knew because they're all in the field taking batting practice with masks on. They don't have full jersey. No one's paying attention to it. But it's something that if I was there, I would find it out in 2 seconds. And all for a note that is not earth-shattering in any way, to tell people, hey, this year the National League is going to go with the DH rule, but Max Scherzer on days that he starts is still going to take batting practice. So, it's just that type of stuff adds up and will add up in terms of the level of what you're getting and gonna get.
And what about working with your partners, and especially for you on TV so much, you have a 3-man booth. We saw you a lot with Chipper and then Rick Sutcliffe. What was the chemistry like trying to talk to them and make sure you have as fluid a broadcast as you can in unique circumstances like this?
I'd say the 3-man was really difficult to execute consistently without stepping on each other. You just, when you're in the same space, the nonverbal of looking at each other and knowing I'm finishing, and then there's a delay in the mix, and we're all on sort of different timing. Like technically, the fact that I'm in Bristol and they're both on home systems changes the timing. So yeah, that was hard. I've changed my opinion on a 3-man booth. I think all things being equal, I'm of the opinion that baseball in 2020, now I reserve the right to change my opinion, but compared to 7 years ago, if you want to do your best, and this is not knocking anyone, but if you want to put your best broadcast out there, you need 3 guys. There's too much time. There's too much time to fill. There's too much time where the ball isn't in play. The ball's in play less than it's ever been. The games are longer than it's ever been, and the amount of time between pitches is longer than it's ever been. You are being asked to fill so much more content. If you were to sit there, you'd be staggered at if you took a radio play-by-play guy that's doing whoever it is. If you took a radio play-by-play guy that's working today that was doing it 12 years ago, and I'm not saying this to feel bad, but if you were to, and he worked 162 games, the amount of time he is working more than he did 12 years ago would blow you away. Like the amount of time you're just on the air. So I just think to execute something that's interesting, that has energy, you need 3 guys. But in this setting, it's too challenging to execute, in my opinion. It was easier when it was me and Sut or me and Chipper and not the 3 of us. So the technical part of it was just really hard.
And I know for you coming into this season, you were looking forward to working with Chipper. You guys had, of course, been on the Braves at the same time, and you were calling Braves games, and he was playing. I really enjoyed getting to hear both of you guys talk together because it seemed like that relationship that began so many years ago in a Braves clubhouse, or even when you were working with the Marlins, that seemed to carry over really well. Just what did you think of his first year getting to work with you in a role like that?
Yeah, he did a good job. It would have been much more fun and much better. And I think he would have had a chance to get even better if we had been next to each other. There are just so many things that I'm not even, he's in his house. There's so many things that he can't see, he can't look at. My ability to influence him, make him feel more comfortable, draw stuff out of him is just greater when he is sitting next to me. And so it was fun. We had a good time. I think that if there's one component that I think that really, that came across with him, it'd be he's super likable. Like, I think that he came across as being more likable than people realize. Not that he wasn't, but I mean it in an active sense, that he was playful and fun and had passion for it. So I enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed it a lot more if we had been at a ballpark and he was sitting next to me, and it would have been a lot better.
And I love listening to you on Sunday night on the radio, like on a summer night. It just kind of feels right. John Sciambi on the radio on a Sunday night, but the chemistry that you have with Chris Singleton, how did that? Is that something that developed on air? Like, because it sounds like you guys are really close friends.
Yeah, you're making me smile. So just as a good example, the first thing that I think about is for all the games that I worked this year, the one thing so the playoffs was frustrating because we had to do it from Bristol. The one thing that was fun, at least about the playoffs, was that they brought everybody in. So at least you had another human next to you. But because Chris does the World Series, and deservedly so, he was with Dan. So I did not work a game this year with Chris next to me. And that just stunk. Yes, the chemistry that Chris and I have developed over time. He's a really good friend. I appreciate him. He's a great human. I appreciate him both on and off the air. We both have a natural playfulness. We both like to poke fun at each other. And the biggest thing that, the chemistry allows us to do is, most people probably don't realize that a standard baseball broadcast, like not national radio, but a standard baseball broadcast, is two play-by-play guys. And so it's your inning or my inning. And the other guy who's not calling the play-by-play does color, but it's more my inning. And so it's not a straight one-to-one, play-by-play and analyst type of situation. And on the radio, because the thing that's of paramount importance is describing what is happening on the field, I'm taking up more space. I mean, I take up space, but I'm taking up more space. And so what my job is to try and be as descriptive as I possibly can. That's what I really want to do it, but do it as efficiently as possible so that there is space for he and I to get everything in. It's not the greatest analogy, but I would describe it, and when we're really good from a technical standpoint, we do something that's hard, and we pack a suitcase in the most impeccable way possible. So you get one of these carry-ons, and all of a sudden we're able to fit 11 days worth of clothes in a carry-on in a nice, neat way. And it's like, wow, how'd you fit all that stuff in there? And it didn't look like the suitcase was going to explode. So that we're just able to just weave the stuff in. Like one of the things, I have a card that I read going to break. And so there are times where Chris will be making a point and he'll lay out for me to call the pitch, and I know that he wants to tag it. So it's a routine ground ball to short, and I know I still have to read my card, but he's laid out, and I want to let him tag what he's saying. So I'm already in my head on a ground ball to short, short over to first, and then letting him back in, and he knows he has just this little bit of space to tag his comment so that I can still get the card in so that we can come back and not miss the first pitch of the next inning. And it's little nerdy stuff like that, but that's the stuff that we do pretty seamlessly, and it's just taken a lot of time. And I love it. I love how naturally it comes to us. It's and we, our producer Justin Ware is great, but yeah, we get into nerdy baseball stuff. He likes to make fun of me. I make fun of him. It's a blast. I love it.
I do want to get into your journey. What was that first play-by-play tape like for you, and eventually getting to the Marlins, and I'll tag the back end of this question will be like, what was Wrigley feel like that night in 2003, the Steve Bartman game? Because for Marlins radio, you saw the success of the Marlins when you were there. What was that night like, and what were the early years like getting into play-by-play?
So I was doing talk radio in Miami, and then I would go to games. Baseball was always my love. I had no experience calling it. I would go and call games into a tape recorder at Marlins Park, and then I put a tape together. I gave it to Dave O'Brien, who's the voice of the Red Sox now, to listen to critique it, and a couple of other people. And he had the great line. He told me, I gave him the tape. He listened to it, and he said, "Hey, let's sit down and we'll go over it." And as he gave me the tape back, he held up the tape, the cassette, and he said, "I thought this was really going to stink, and it didn't." And that was his compliment. So I was like, all right, I'll take it. And from there, I got a job in Boise. And then, the Marlins were restructuring their broadcast teams, and they really were looking for a fourth guy that was travel, pre-post, a little bit of play-by-play, in-game scores. I really lucked out. And I had done some stuff. That was at a time when Wayne Huizenga owned 3 of the 4 franchises down in South Florida. And I had already done some stuff on the Panthers radio network the year they went to the Stanley Cup. So I just got kind of lucky there, and then climbed and got, a little more play-by-play until, Dave Van Horn and I were working together, and he was the number 1 guy and I was the number 2 guy. As far as Game 6, it was, that team was pretty special because it was all a group of guys around my age. The Mike Lowells, the Jeff Conines, the Mike Redmonds, Brian Banks, Andy Fox, and then all these younger guys like Derek Lee and Brad Penny, who I had known since they were babies. So it was super personal. And, for them to come back, I still can remember in that inning. It was Dave's inning, so I didn't call the play. But we had incorporated, the TV voices were Len Casper and Tommy Hutton, and we had incorporated them into the broadcast. So they would each do an inning with us. And I remember in that 8th inning, Len was sitting behind me on the steps. And I just can remember when Mike Mordecai hit the bases clearing double, as soon as there was contact, he grabbed the back of my arm. And then as soon as it landed, he grabbed my arm again. And then you could tell everybody was going to score, and he just kept grabbing my arm. The one other thing I'll tell you is, and this is, a little bit nerdy. So everyone talks about Game 6. But in Game 7, the Marlins jumped out to an early lead. And Kerry Wood tied the game with a home run. And there are some people, I'm one of them, I was not there for the playoff run in 16, but there's some people that'll tell you the loudest they've ever heard Wrigley Field was when Kerry Wood hit that home run. All I can tell you is I felt unsafe in the press box. It was moving, and it was unsafe. But that postseason run was amazing. There's just so many different, there was one really funny one. Mike Lowell was an MVP candidate that year. I think he had 32 home runs that season. But he got hit on the hand the last day of August by, I think it was Hector Almonte, and broke his hand. And so that led them to trade for Jeff Conine, and they put Miguel Cabrera at third. And Mike eventually healed, but wasn't 100%. And to the point where he didn't play in the Giants series, I don't believe, and he didn't start Game 1 of the NLCS, but he came off the bench and he hit a home run. in the 10th that ended up being the difference in that game. He had a pinch hit solo homer, and I think the Marlins won that game by a run in extra innings. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it happened. But the thing that I remember was that the next day, running into Mikey in a store somewhere in downtown Chicago, and he's like, "Come here." And he hands me his phone, and the Red Sox were playing the Yankees. And so they hadn't started their series, but the Red Sox were in New York. And our buddy, former Marlin Kevin Millar, called Mike when he came up to pinch hit and left him like a 3-minute voicemail. Now, this is 03, and this is Mike and I have talked about it. One of his great regrets is he didn't keep this voice. But Kevin did play-by-play of the at-bat. So it's like Kevin always used to make fun of Mike's body, that Mike had like kind of a soft body with love handles. So it's just like, "Oh, here we go, big boy. Oh, look at those obliques. They're looking good. You've been hitting the abs before. The forearms are looking pretty tight. All right, good take, good take." And then, just cursing and calling the home run. It was one of the funniest things ever. And then the other story that I've told 9 million times is that, so the Marlins eventually win, but they were a game behind. And that was the first year that home field in the All-Star, or home field in the World Series, was determined by the All-Star game winner. And that was the American League. But the National League had already decided. So we're sitting in New York, and we don't know where we're going. We just know we're going to the American League city. So we sit in the ballroom of the Westin Hotel in Chicago watching Grady Little leave Pedro in. Eventually, the traveling secretary gets, I think there were 3 buses. We got to go to the airport. And we drive to the airport. And we get to the airport, and the game is in extra innings. And they will not let us, our plane is, we can see it. They will not let us on the tarmac. We're outside the charter area with the gate closed because we don't have a destination. So they won't let us on the plane. And I mean, and so we're sitting on the buses, 3 buses, listening to John Miller on ESPN radio. And Boone comes up, and it's swung on, belted, deep left field. And the gate starts to open up and the Yankees are going to the world. And we're driving onto the tarmac, and we get on the plane and fly to New York.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's a great story, and I love hearing anytime Boomer is mentioned. One of the great people I got to know in my time working for the Marlins AA team, so that's
Bill
really
Beck
good.
is the best.
He's the best. Speaking of John Miller, and I can really look to my baseball play-by-play career as before I heard you on Joel Gaddet's podcast and after I heard you on that, because the way you broke down how important the pitch is and just setting up the pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it changed my career, honestly. It changed my pace. It got everything in line. So we just love for you to explain why that's so important to young broadcasters that are listening.
All right, so I will say, as an interviewee, you have officially sucked me in. Like that. So, yeah, you get it. I mean, it's not like there's a ton of people out there that understand what we do. I mean, in terms of the technical part of it. But John Miller explained it to me however many years ago, and it was the greatest piece. I still think of it now. Anyway, you asked me to explain it. The piece of advice that he gave that I try to give any young broadcaster is this: that from a technical standpoint, the best thing that you can do is you want to start every play so that you don't want it to be a conversation, there's a ball outside, and we're just chatting fouled back. Like, let me know when the action is. You need to hear somewhere in my voice something in terms of spacing that will let you know, here comes a pitch. You know what I mean? There needs to be a change in intonation, a pause, something. And then the other thing is that from a timing standpoint, that you need to start it before you think you need to. Because you can't say, here's the 2-1 perfectly in sync with the pitcher throwing it. Because the ball gets to the plate faster than your words come out of your mouth. Think about that for a second. But it is interesting. If you say, here's the pitch perfectly timed up, the TCH is getting clipped when it's well mic'd by the ball hitting the bat or by the ball hitting the glove. And as a radio guy, you're trying to use the sounds of the park. So what you want is, on a ground ball to short, you don't want it to be, if you're hearing the ball hit the bat, you don't want it to be, here's the pitch. You want it to be, here's the pitch. Swinging a ground ball to short. Gathered in by Everett. Throw to first, 1 down. That's how you want to hear the ball hit the bat. That's why any highlight call for me, the first thing I'm hearing is I want to hear the space between here's the 2-1, here's the pitch, and the ball hitting the bat, and then the play-by-play starts. That's my technical thing. And then the other part of it is when you do that, it puts you in a position to not chase the play. So, and I've been doing this a long time, and I still will have days where, I'm not great, where I'm not on my game. And when I'm frustrated with my timing, I go back to that. I go back to that all the time. But where all I'm doing, I make it more boring, that's for sure. But where I'm just fixated on Cole on the mound, turns, kicks, fires, and a fastball is high, and it's ball 1. But we're on the pitcher. And I want it back so that, and the play is starting again. The 2-1 to the plate. That's what you're focusing on, just to get your timing. And you keep getting that timing, and then you can get yourself back in sync. But John gave that to me. I've told him that before, and it was funny. I've told him that a couple of times, but one of the times I told him, it kind of stopped him, and he's like, "Oh, that is good advice. I probably should be doing that a little bit more." It was really funny. It was like, but he just, and I don't look. It is technical advice from Picasso, one guy's opinion, okay? Vin Scully's a one-man show, and he doesn't do it anymore. The only guy that could have gone in there and done the same thing is John, in my opinion. He's an artist. He's fun. He's funny. If you ever get a chance, go to YouTube or Google his call of Ruben Rivera's base running. You know, the play a couple years ago where we're all still going to, make mistakes. We got a lot of names in our head. We're going to misspeak. I think that's one of the things that the average fan doesn't understand, that when you're concentrating that long for that hard, that sometimes you're just going to misspeak. I know Mike Trout's first name's Mike, but if I call him Steve because I'm distracted by another Steve on the field or something else, it's not that I don't know that Mike Trout's name is Mike Trout. You just, every once in a while, your brain. So John didn't look at his scorecard a couple years ago, and the great, grand slam by Buster Posey's good friend Hunter Pence.
Yeah.
That like a mistake right there underlines how brilliant that guy is. And he just has a way with with language, he uses his voice so well in a way that I'm not. I wish I was that good at using it, but and that whole crew is great. But anyway, I've taken enough time on that. But yeah, I remember doing that interview. I do, and it's the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten. It still applies today. I like telling it to young broadcasters whenever I can.
Yeah, it certainly helped me out. Like, I would always watch kind of the pitcher's legs, and like as soon as he started to rock back, that's when I'd say, "Here's the 1-2, here's the 1-1, here's the pitch." We're really getting into it from there.
Screw you, right? Sometimes something will happen out of the stretch where you're trying to be so far ahead of it, where they'll spin and they'll throw to first. Here comes the 1-2. Nope, throw to first. It's fine. Right. It's fine. So, yeah.
And kind of with that on radio as well, talking about baseball play-by-play on the radio, how do you try to balance the fine line between trying to be as direct as possible while also using the freedom to paint the picture as vividly as you can with your vocabulary?
So what I would say is the things that I came up with, there's sort of ways to cheat and also get better, but I think that I built up muscles, for lack of a better phrase, on the most routine plays, really paying attention. So on a fly ball to right field, where the right fielder barely has to move, you really give him movement, even though it's slight. So high fly ball right field, bets towards the line, one more step to his left, reaches out, and puts a squeeze on it. Like, nothing's happening there. Nothing's happening there. Ground ball to short. Seager, 2 steps to his left, gobbles it up. Like, I'm giving him it might be, think about it. I mean, he's just moving a step to his left, or bounce to third. Turner reaches down, picks it up. Like, I'm utilizing these. It's cheating. It's just a ground ball to third. It's right at him. But I'm just describing them, and you get that active even on the most routine play. And what I would say is by, ground ball to first, Muncy reaches to his left, scoops it up. He'll take it himself, steps on the bag with his left foot. That type of stuff, I think by always being in that mode and on those non-pressure plays, you're building up some muscle memory so that on the really fast plays, I find that the descriptive stuff will spill out, if that makes sense. So that on a rocket up the middle, hard hit ground ball up the middle, Seager dives, it's off his glove. He picks it up with a bare hand, throw to first, you know what I mean? And you get everything. Because my muscles are sharp. That's sort of the way I would describe it. So instead of grounded to third, Turner to first, like, give him some movement. Give him some movement. Like, constantly be practicing actions, moving right to left, or left to right, or bare hand, or glove, or low throw, or even pick, or it's a thing I say when Mike Trout gets in the box. I'll say stocky right-handed hitter. If you listen to the broadcast, I got a pretty good idea. Mike Trout hits right-handed. All I'm doing is trying to activate in your mind's eye, picturing Mike Trout. Yeah, Mike Trout. Stop. I'm trying to activate that. Those are the types of things when I'm giving movement and action, that's what I'm trying to do.
And vocally, for you on the air, baseball has that rocking chair rhythm where you can kind of be sing-songy, conversational with your voice. How long did it take you to get where you kind of meshed, conversational John, real-life John to broadcast John? Like, get all that together where it doesn't sound like you're Mr. Broadcaster guy.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you. I think I think the biggest challenge, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the gap between what you're like on the air and off the air as thin as possible, in my opinion. I think especially on TV for me, I think I've made strides even, in the last 10 years because of just my most authentic self, where there's a it's stupid, but I'm doing a playoff game on ABC, and they have, now they have these squeeze back commercials, and they had one for the Hartford, and it was like a faux haircut shop, and it was called Hair by Hugo, and I'm doing the Marlins and the Cubs. Well, the Marlins barber is named Hugo. So I'm like, Chipper, I'm like, that commercial right there. It's the type of stuff that if we were sitting next to each other, you could be damn sure I'm bringing up. So I'm just trying to bring me to it. And then I think the other, so that technical advice is John Miller advice that I, was gifted with and passed along because I think it's so good. My opinion, and as I get older, I'm sure it sounds, I don't know how it sounds necessarily, but how people perceive it. But I think that one of the biggest challenges with baseball is, in my opinion, a really white conservative sport. And I think that we all get into it, no matter what you want to say. Most broadcasters go into it, and somewhere in the back or front of their mind, they're trying to sound like a 60-year-old white guy. And when you're 28, it sounds ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like ground ball to short, and that's just what the doctor ordered. And I still fight spitting out stupid shit like that. Can I curse?
Go for it. It's YouTube.
It's so, but let's just be a little more. I want there to be a broadcast, and I want there to be some formality to it, but I don't want you to sound age appropriate. And I think guys fight that, and I want you to use words that you use in everyday life. That, again, this is John Sciambi's opinion, but don't use a ton of stuff that you wouldn't use every day, broadcastery phrases. Just try and get away from that, because that's going to get you more towards your natural sound, I think. We all do it. I still fight it sometimes on just a broadcaster autopilot thing. But I think that, one thing at a time, I would still say, I don't think you go about, I think until you can really feel like you nail the technical portion, then I personally think that's the progression of it. I don't think until you feel as though, they could land a UFO in the field in the third and you describe it and sneak the play-by-play in, and you're just like, we're good. And then you really start to feel as though, that you're comfortable with how you sound and the things you'll talk about and the way you describe. If I say, can of corn, stuff like, and some guys can pull it. I guess I shouldn't, never say never, and what's the age cutoff, but I guess it's just, I feel like, we know when it's age appropriate and when it's not. So just try and be, because it runs the risk of just sounding stiff to me.
one of our final ones. What's your preparation look like? So you're going into a city, say you have a radio game on Sunday, television game on Wednesday.
Yeah.
What are you bringing with you to the ballpark in terms of notes and stats and all that good stuff?
So I'm usually toting around. I do my card. I do a scorecard. It's just the way I ended up doing it. I mean, for some time when I did a team, I had a book, but I like cards. And so, I mean, just so for you asked regular season, but for the most part, if let's say it's August and I have the Dodgers Nationals Saturday and Sunday on the radio in DC, and then I don't know, the Phillies and the Cubs on Wednesday. I'll have all my Dodgers Nationals cards from this year. I'll have my Cubs Phillies cards from this year. I have a book with like relevant notes as it relates to I wish I had this out, but like, let's see here. Where's that book? Yeah, hang on. Stand by, caller. Hang on. All right, here we go. All right, so hang on. Okay. And we're back. All right, so prep-wise, here's one of my this is going to sound so I'm always Inside Edge is a good Twitter follow. They have good statistical stuff. So at the beginning of the season, I still do a lot of. I'm not the most organized cat, but like I have a book that I keep here that has probably the 20 most frequently broadcasted teams. So I'll just start with like notes. And they do a preview with Inside Edge. So the beginning of the year. So I'm always looking for that. The beginning of the year, I always get this. I get Athlon. You're always gonna find like one or two good notes for every team that from last year. And then so like I have that in. Let me see if I can find one good one in here for you. But like, and then what I'll do is that it's the type of thing where. Where I will go and look at maybe an update on that stat for this year. And then the other thing is I have generic numbers. I mean, like I'm nerdy. So like, okay, so here's my book with all the teams, but then here's some of the other things. I have like league-wide trends in here. Okay, so I'm just going all over the place. You don't care, do you?
No.
So, like, for example,
good stuff.
I have in 2019, 15 guys through 200 innings. In 2015, it was 28. In 2010, it was 45. In 2005, it was 50. So just generic sort of state of the game stuff. In 2010, 50% of all starts, the pitcher went 100 pitches. In 2019, it was 24%. I have league strikeout rates. Pitchers hit 128 last year with a strikeout rate of 44%. That was going into this year. So I have this book. There's always like general things that that we're going to talk about, so that if a guy doesn't go 100 pitches, I might take the conversation to nowadays, like I think this year, by the way, so it was in 2010 it was 50% went 100 pitches, 19 it was 24%. It was a short, but I think it was like 12% this year. It was 14, sorry, I have it here. It was 14%. So from 2010 to 19 to 20, it went from 50%, 24%, 14%. Just interesting. Mm-hmm. Like most people don't know. So I have that type of shit written down and researched. And then I'll also take. So I mentioned I bring my cards. So like, if that was this year, I'd also bring my 5-game playoff cards from the Nats and the Dodgers from last year, just in case there's something I'd want to follow up on. And then the biggest thing for me is, and that's why this year just sucked, you get all these good things, and then, I've been doing this a while, so my access is good, so my ability to go ask these guys to connect with the general managers, the managers, and the players and get them to tell me stories, humanize stuff, and you see these players more and more. And so to get in front of them, even something as simple as, the year the Red Sox won it all in 18, we had them a ton, obviously. I don't know if you heard, we do the Yankees and the Red Sox and ESPN a bunch. Yes. But like Mookie, you just see him all the time, and you just get. So I did a pregame interview with him, and one of the things I know about Mookie is he hates being cold, hates it. So it could be 100 degrees, and he has thermals on under his uniform. I'm serious. And when it is 65 or less, he will wear 2 pairs of batting gloves. He's the only guy I've ever heard of that will wear batting gloves on top of batting gloves. And I had him go through his whole, when it's this temperature, I'm wearing this. When it's this temperature, I'm wearing, just whatever. I asked him about, if you remember in 17, Benintendi, Betts, and Bradley would dance in the outfield. They do win, dance, repeat, and they dance in center field. But then they didn't in 18. And what happened was Benintendi and Bradley didn't want to dance, and Mookie did. And they voted. And he's like, yeah, I got outvoted. He's like, I tried to get JD as a 4th outfielder in DH to maybe get a push, and then we go to a different committee. JD was not interested. So it's that, so you get these nuggets, and you get a statistical piece of information you ask a guy about, or a personal piece of information, and then you get the stories, and you humanize guys, and I love that part of it. I love getting to tell guys stories. It's just it's so much fun, and getting the access that the fans can't get. So yeah, prep's a big thing. It's I carry around this whole bucket of information that I tote around, and look, I call people. I try as much as I can. I try to talk to. I like talking to most of the GMs when I can to get more background stuff. Like I don't want it to be I talk to general manager X. I just don't want to say stupid shit. I want to know, how do you see your team? In 4 weeks, this guy's coming back off the DL. Who's vulnerable? So I can say this guy might be vulnerable. Not the GM told me this guy's vulnerable. So, but you're taking all that stuff, and when you're with all the, it's like Daniel Vogelback. If you ever watch when he hits, he doesn't strap his batting gloves. Whatever. On TV, it's a great little bit, though. And one of the games that we did, they showed it, and one of the teams beefed about it, and they made him cut off the Franklin strips because they were just flapping all over the place. I like stuff like that. Just those types of things. There's a million of them. It's how the Chipper Jones story happened. Mm-hmm. Like, for whatever anybody, like, it started because he was rolling over to second a lot on the first pitch, at least anecdotally to me. And so I wanted to see, was he getting strikes to hit? and then I put it in front of them. Like, that's what that's the ultimate, is you get all this information, but it's not that I'm just locked away up in my castle. I want to take the interesting shit, the human stuff, and then go ask the guys about it. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I would have loved to, the day before, to ask Scherzer about hitting if I could have been there, because he would have said something funny. So that part is so much fun. I mean, I love that part of it. I love getting a good note and then something, whether it's statistical or not, asking some of these guys about, we talk about launch angle, but how some of these guys have changed their swings and their hitting philosophies, and the understanding that so many of these guys have about what they're trying to do at the plate. It's just, there's so much interesting stuff in this sport, so much interesting stuff. I think the postseason was good. I think at times it doesn't profile that way on the field, because there's so much time between pitches and the ball's not in play enough. But the adjustments are happening at rapid pace, and there's a lot of interesting guys and a lot of interesting information. I love preparing for games. Like, I love preparing for it. It's so much fun to sit there and get stuff and then scribble down lists and notes. I got to ask this guy about this and that guy about that, just to get one, do you know this guy, blah, blah. It's just, I love it, and I missed the hell out of it this year. I missed it so much.
Absolutely. Well, we know we're really short on time with you, but did want to ask you real quick. We got college basketball coming up. Kyle and I both do radio for teams, and then also do some television-style broadcast on the SEC Network Plus platform. Just figuring out the basketball rhythm on TV. There's a lot of times when I transfer over, I kind of uncomfortable with that silence while the ball is in play before a shot goes up. Just how do you feel about the rhythm of basketball? What do you enjoy about calling college basketball on TV?
I mean, college, it's such a different animal. Baseball's my favorite. It's the sport that interests me the most. I think it's the ultimate broadcaster sport because there's so much space to fill. You're the editor, the ombudsman, the writer. You're all of it, and you just get to decide, and you have a lot of space. With college basketball, you're really accenting what's happening, and you're trying to set up your analyst on TV. I haven't done a ton of basketball play-by-play, or at least not in a while. To me, college basketball is about atmosphere. So like I'm in the Big 12 a lot, so I'm in Lawrence. I mean, so Allen Fieldhouse might as well be the third person in our booth, because what ends up happening is, because it's such a great crowd, if Kansas is down 10 at home, what does a great crowd do? Well, in my opinion, a great crowd in basketball, they're not waiting for something great to happen. They're urging their team to make something great happen. So they don't start going bananas when it's tied after they were down 10. They start going bananas when it gets to 6 after they've been down 10. They're really pushing, urging, and there's so many times where there's a big shot and you can just lay out and you just feel it through the TV. That's where, college basketball is so great. But I think you're really trying to engage your analyst, and set up, ask good questions. For the most part, again, back to baseball. I remember Alex Cora went to go do his first game, and this, again, just my opinion, but like, if you work with a new analyst for the first time, whether it's radio or TV, the basic format in baseball is, when the ball's in play, the play-by-play guy talks. When the ball stops being in play, then the analyst talks. In basketball, for the most part, when we're under 20-ish, 15-ish on the shot clock, it's the play-by-play guy. Ball goes in the basket, you tag, you finish. They start, that's when the analyst gets in. So it's get in, get out, get in, get out. And it's not going to work perfectly in that regard, but that's sort of the basic the basic outline. You'd prefer your analyst not talking as the ball goes in the basket is the thing as a partnership. But yeah, the atmosphere is the fun thing, and then just getting to see great players and yeah, it's always. I mean, growing up in New York City, I loved the Big East back in the day, and even now, last year this time I went to the Bahamas. And there were good teams there. Gonzaga was there, Michigan was there, North Carolina was there, Oregon, Seton Hall. It was fun, and it's the Bahamas. You can't beat that.
No doubt about it. Well, John, we appreciate all your time today. Of course, you do a great job on ESPN, both baseball and college basketball. So we look forward to some of your broadcasts coming up. But just thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thanks, John.
All right. Thanks to John Boog Sciambi, and thank you for watching Broadcaster Hour.